555 Jacksonville. Now, get ready to spend the next 2 hours with our sports-loving ladies, Lauren Brooks and Taylor Dahl.
This is Helmets and Heels
on 1010XL.
Hey, show me what you got, pretty lady.
We're going to talk some football today because we are sports-loving ladies. We'll kick things off with some NFL football, and then at 12:40, we will talk to Irish Schofel and talk some FSU football, certainly from WarChant.com, and he knows the Noles so well. You know, he actually went to Florida. I always say that part.
I didn't know
he
that,
went to Florida,
actually.
but he's been covering FSU for a very long time and does a great job there for WarChant.com. But Taylor, let's kick things off with some ranking of the divisions by quarterback. You came up with how we should go through the divisions and rank them by each offensive position. And I think that's a great idea because I think we're going to end up with different results. So the way I went about it, I'll tell you two things. The way I went about it is I first went through each division with just what I think about the 4 quarterbacks in each. And of course, we don't know exactly who some starting quarterbacks will be, but those mostly are towards the bottom of the rankings of the entire 32 quarterbacks, I would say. So I went through and I just did by my own opinion. And then I went to PFF, and you know how I love spreadsheets. Mm-hmm. So then I took PFF's 1 through 32 and then added up those numbers. So whoever had the lowest number by division of those rankings. Yeah. And then I just wanted to compare and contrast to see how it was against my list, my rankings, and pretty close, I'll say. A little bit of difference, pretty close. But let's see certainly
how different.
Yeah, how different ours are. Who do you have? Which division do you have as the best?
Yeah, so number one, this was a little bit more difficult than I thought it was going to be because once you start digging into it, there's obviously divisions that have some of the best quarterbacks. And to me, I was trying to decide how much do I weight those bad quarterbacks the good quarterbacks compared to the bad quarterbacks. If there's 2 in one, but they have a really bad one in that one, how much do I drop them for that? And so that's kind of the difficult part. And then obviously you have the teams where you don't know who the quarterback is, or you have the teams that the quarterback's new to that team. So how are they going to play with that team? So there is a little bit of a projection here because you're going on a combination of maybe the history of what that quarterback is. But to me, I did combine it with how I am kind of expecting them to be with their new offense. And so it was a little more difficult than what I thought it was. But for me at the top, I have to put AFC West. I don't think there's a world where you don't. Like Patrick Mahomes obviously is going to weight everything heavily that way. I think Justin Herbert is a really good quarterback too. Bo Nix, what he showed last year, I think is something you're going to expect that at least to continue to grow with Bo Nix, and especially what that Denver team has built around him too. We talked about how good their offensive line is. They've added more weapons for him. So there's a lot of good things happening in Denver in that sense. And I think Sean Payton's done a really good job too of being able to kind of just organize or I guess create something that simplifies things a little bit for Bo Nix year one. And maybe we'll see that open up even more this season. And then Geno Smith, I think that there was a lot of questions when Geno Smith was first signed in Seattle and what that was going to look like, but he's had 2 pretty good seasons. So to me, they have 4 quarterbacks in that division that can compete with the majority of the NFL. And to me, it's hard to not put them at 1.
And honestly, even maybe a year ago, I would have said Mahomes, and I don't care who else is even in the division, and I still would have them number 1. I do think it's gotten a little closer with some other quarterbacks inching up there, and certainly we saw the Chiefs lose the Super Bowl, which I never expected to happen, even though I thought the Eagles had a better roster. I still thought, well, it's Andy Reid and it's Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, and
especially lose the way they lost.
Oh, for sure, yeah. So you do start to see, I feel like, a little bit of those other quarterbacks that were in maybe a tier 2 now creeping up to more of the same tier with Patrick Mahomes. But to your point, Justin Herbert, a lot of NFL teams would want him as the starter. Some people here in Jacksonville, I know I wanted him to be the Jags quarterback once upon a time. That didn't happen. Bo Nix, we have to see what happens with him in year 2. But after watching him at Auburn, I never thought he would be a good college quarterback. Then watching him at Oregon, I thought, oh, wow.
There it is. Yeah.
Now I understand, why the Auburn family was so high on him. And then to see what he did last year, I think he's really good, and it makes me nervous, of course, for that Jags Broncos game out there in Denver in December. And then Geno Smith, I think, is a guy that has worked for everything he's ever gotten.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's necessarily the most talented guy, but he's going to put all that work in.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, if you were to tell, and that some of it as you're comparing to, and stats, the box scores aren't everything, and that's part of this too. You can go through and you can say, oh, they had this many yards, and they had this many wins and losses, and they threw this many things. There's obviously other factors in that when you're deciding a quarterback, and this, how much are surrounding, how much is coaching, how much is the quarterback. So some of that plays into here. But if you were, I think he had 4,300 yards this last season, 21 touchdowns, 15 picks, and that was people saying he declined last year.
Regress.
The year before it was 3,600, 20 and 9. I think that that's very similar, honestly, to what Justin Herbert did last year when Jim Harbaugh kind of reeled things in. They started running the ball and doing a little bit more of that. And so I do think that Geno Smith is a guy that does need a little bit of help around him, which that's fine. You can have Brock Purdy. We can say this, it was similar things. It's fine to be one of those guys that if you, I wouldn't call him a game manager, but he is more of kind of maybe relies a little bit more on some help around him. How much does that, I mean, what does that look like this year? We will see, but it's hard
He's
to.
got some good weapons though, Geno
That's what I'm
does.
saying. You have the help around you here too. So I don't expect any sort of decline. I kind of expect it to stay steady of what we've seen the last couple years.
And when I told you I looked at the PFF rankings, the AFC West was number one as far as, again, I took the average basically of the rankings for each quarterback. They were point system 38. Because again, the lower you are, the better your quarterback. Because the lower the number, the higher you're ranked in the PFF rankings. And then the next best one, I'll tell you, was different than my rankings. So I have the AFC North as my second best quarterback grouping. Okay. I figured we'd be similar for the top couple and maybe the bottom couple.
This one, though, I was kind of going back and forth, but I had to wait. To me, if you're talking about the best quarterbacks in the league, you talk about Mahomes, Lamar, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow.
And two of those
are in this division.
Absolutely. To your point. So by PFF rankings, the NFC East is what would be second. But yeah, I'm with you. When you talk about Joe Burrow, who we always trash the Bengals defense, and for good reason, he, even with a bad offensive line, was able to make it to the Super Bowl. Granted, they lost, but still made it to the Super Bowl. Rams won. Lamar Jackson for the Ravens, quite possibly the best quarterback in all of the league. Some certainly could argue for that. There's a reason he's won multiple MVPs. Aaron Rodgers being added to the mix is certainly better than Mason Rudolph, but we still have a lot of questions for what Aaron Rodgers will be this season. Joe Flacco is the one that I think probably dragged these rankings down in PFF's eyes.
Or Browns.
and then, it could be also just the Browns in general, because that organization is an absolute mess. But yeah, both of us have AFC West first, AFC North second.
Yeah, I mean, you have, to your point, you have Lamar Jackson, who is, I know a lot of people, when it comes to those top four, different people have them ordered differently when it comes to Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, and Lamar. But those four are at the top, and a lot of people, have Lamar as that next quarterback. You know, you talk about the MVPs, you talk about what he's been able to do, and I think that we had the argument earlier in this offseason of who should have won MVP, and my argument for Joe Burrow was he did it with one of the worst offensive lines and worst defenses, and he threw 43 touchdowns and 9 picks in a season. And so it's hard when you talk about two of the next tier, that it's Patrick Mahomes and those three other guys are right there with each other, and you can make an argument for all three of them to be that number 2 quarterback, and you have two of them in that division. I do think it automatically kind of weighs that to higher. And this is where I had to decide, like, how much am I letting the Browns weigh this division down? Because to me, there's just too many question marks when it comes to their quarterback room. Right now, it maybe seemed like Flacco. I saw an article today that says they may cut ties with Dylan Gabriel, and they're already talking about that. And so that looks silly because you drafted Dylan Gabriel before Shedeur Sanders, so why not whatever. But and then to me, yes, Aaron Rodgers, as much as I can't stand the man, he still, if you go back and even look at what he did last year, coming off an Achilles and with a new team, or almost a new team because he didn't play with them barely at all the year before, you still have to give him credit at the age that he is of some of the things he can still do. He's a menace to a lot of defenses, and I think he's going to continue to be that. It maybe not as consistently. It used to be for 17 games, 16, 17 games he was doing that. Maybe you'll only see 10, 11, 12 of those games, but I still think you're going to see enough of that old Aaron Rodgers in moments. And especially with a team.
Old Aaron Rodgers, pun intended.
Yeah, the old. And especially when you talk about the Steelers. The Steelers are a winning organization. They know how to do it with absolute trash quarterbacks. quarterbacks. I think they'll figure out a way to get at least some of the prime Aaron Rodgers at moments to shine. And so I do think, again, you have 3 of the quarterbacks you've talked about being the best of all time in that division, and it's hard not to put them at 2 for me.
It's so wild for me to think Aaron Rodgers plays for the Steelers.
It's so weird.
Like,
I know.
The Jets kind of made sense just because New York is such a crazy market, but now playing for the Steelers, like a team that prides itself on not being egotistical and like just, yes, they've had players that have big egos, but that's why they don't usually jive with Mike Tomlin. They're they're hardworking blue collar type of city, and now Aaron Rodgers is there, and he doesn't mesh with them in my mind. All right, the third division that I have, so behind the AFC West and then the AFC North, I've got the NFC East, which lines up. Okay, we have the same brain, which doesn't surprise me because we watch a lot of football. I feel like it's going to
start getting mixed up here for us.
It could.
Yeah.
So certainly Jalen Hurts with the Philadelphia Eagles, Jaden Daniels with the Commanders, Dak Prescott of the Cowboys, and Russell Wilson, potentially the starting quarterback for the Giants. We shall see. But obviously one just won a Super Bowl. Jaden Daniels, you know how much I loved him in college and thought he would be a fantastic quarterback in the NFL. It did translate. Thought the Commanders would make the playoffs. Not necessarily thought they'd make it to the NFC Championship. And then Dak Prescott and Russell Wilson are a little bit more of wild cards for me. Prescott has had his moments. Obviously, Russell Wilson has won a Super Bowl in the past, but I think his best football is long behind him. And with Dak Prescott, with all the different injuries, and for me, it's the interceptions in those massive moments, those playoff moments, that I'd put him just a little farther down.
Yeah, I have similar when it comes to obviously the top of that. I think that Jalen Hurts just proved what he was able to do, and we talked about that a little bit yesterday. We give a lot of credit to Fangio and that Eagles defense and what they were able to do against Patrick Mahomes, but you also have to give credit to Jalen Hurts in that game, and obviously Saquon. Saquon was incredible, but Jalen Hurts in a lot of moments when it was up to him to make a big play, he did it, and it's against a team who has won multiple Super Bowls, and it's against Andy Reid, who is the master schemer against those opposing quarterbacks when it comes to making decisions and kind of how to rattle them. And he was able to stay just calm. I remember even at halftime when the lead was what it was, everyone was still tweeting, it's still Patrick Mahomes. Like, no way this game is going this way. And then it did, and it continued that. So I think you do have to give a lot of credit to Jalen Hurts still. And I think that people kind of discredit some of the mobile quarterbacks a little too much when they're like, oh, well, he only passed for X amount of yards. But when you're also rushing for almost 1,000 yards, I do think you have to add that level of it, because there's guys that are mobile in the league that still can't make that work the way that Jalen Hurts and a Lamar Jackson can. So I do think you have to credit him for that. And yeah, Jaden Daniels, I think year one, what he was able to do in year one on a Washington team, there was good pieces. Terry McLaurin to me is a really good, a top receiver in the league. And I think that the coaching and what they were able to do offensively to help him did probably make his job a little bit easier. And so I am fascinated of how that looks this year, but you can't discredit for what he was able to do. And I think they were the team, like, they didn't punt for 9 straight games or something like that on their first drive. And that's incredible. That's just something you don't see hardly ever. I still think Dak Prescott injury wise is what I think a lot of people are concerned about. And then obviously once you get to the postseason, there's concerns for that. But I think here right now in Jacksonville, if you were saying you were getting a quarterback that threw 36 touchdowns and 9 picks 2 years ago, you would take that in a heartbeat. And that he's done that multiple times throughout his career. So I don't know if Dak gets enough love. Honestly, I think people focus too much on the postseason, and I think a lot of the coaching has affected some of the postseason outcomes. But yeah, for me, it's hard to that division. This is where it did start to. I could make some arguments of moving things around. My next one, I went back and forth of how I wanted to. Russell Wilson, I think, is on the downslope of his career, but I still think in moments you see, and we saw it last year, it wasn't an incredible Russell Wilson year, but on a disaster of what the Pittsburgh Steelers were offensively, he was able to at least give them some life at certain moments during the season. And so we will see how that looks. Again, I don't really know. The Giants aren't the organization that usually pulls the quarterbacks out of the abyss and fixes them. So we will see how that looks. But
does Jackson Dart beat him out?
Yeah, and
it's a question for me, because then that changes how I feel
about this conference. And there are some competitions on here where I'm kind of like, I don't even know how long this person's going to be starting. And on their depth chart right now, they have Jameis. It's still Wilson, Jameis, and then Dart. So what does that look like in week one?
Doesn't surprise me, because rookies, a lot of times teams will
get buried a little bit. Yeah, and you just don't know enough, especially after OTAs. But yeah, so for me too, NFC East is third.
If Prescott was the Prescott that I feel like people thought he could be, again, those postseason miscues are why he gets a lot of negativity, and that makes sense to me. But if he was the 36 touchdowns, 9 picks, and was able to win multiple playoff games, like if that's the guy we're talking about, you could argue the NFC East is first.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you could make the argument. I would listen to someone making the argument, and again, maybe needing to see Jane Daniels do it for another year.
Yeah.
But those at the top 3,
Yeah,
wow,
this was,
interesting.
and that's the crazy thing about this is I truly think that this time next year, this could look totally different.
For sure.
Because you're going to be talking about what Rodgers does this year. You're going to be talking about Daniels. You're going to be talking about a Trevor Lawrence and a Stroud and a Cam Ward and a Caleb Williams and a J.J. McCarthy. Like a lot of those guys that are kind of TBDs or just need to see a little bit of question marks around those could drastically change in one season.
That it could. All right, we will get to our fourth one on the list. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Bone-crushing blows to game-winning goals. Feel the energy on 1010XL.
History!
Jacksonville Sports Radio.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Mia here. Why does Northeast Florida buy from Arlington Toyota? Because Arlington is the place to go for big selection. I'm talking over 800 vehicles, one location, and everyday low prices. Over 350 SUVs, over 175 trucks, over 275 cars. And if that's not enough, there's more on the way. Plus 60-day exchange. I know you've heard me talk about this, but really, let this sink in. Buy from Arlington, take it home, drive it around for 60 days. And if you decide it's not right for you, you just come on back to Arlington and exchange it for another one. You even get Arlington's lifetime warranty with your new Toyota purchase. Why buy from Arlington? Because right now you can get financing as low as 0% on select new Toyota models. 0%. Now you know why Northeast Florida buys from Arlington Toyota. Shop in person on Atlantic Boulevard, just a quarter mile east of 295, or online anytime at arlingtontoyota.com.
It's tune-up time, and Florida Home AC, the official AC partner of the Jaguars, wants to partner with you for a cool summer season. Tune up your AC unit right now so it's running at peak performance when you need it most. Just call 777-4300 and order a tune-up for just $59. Keep your unit humming at optimal level. Log on to FloridaHomeAC.com and take advantage of their savings. Keep cool with Florida Home AC. That's 777-4300.
Hello, I'm Joe Cordell, founder of Cordell & Cordell. Divorce is complicated, especially when your small business or professional practice is involved. At Cordell & Cordell, we understand that these assets raise unique valuation and allocation issues. For 35 years, we've helped doctors, lawyers, and small business owners navigate divorce with confidence. Call us at Cordell & Cordell. Let me tell you, I understand on a personal level, your business is much more than a job. It's your legacy.
Jacksonville, Florida. Joseph Cordell, licensed in Missouri and Illinois. CordellCordell.com.
Hey, Hickett here from my friends at Zero Res. Gang, vacuuming is not sufficient to maintain the cleanliness and lifespan of your carpet, period. Let me repeat, do not leave deep cleaning to yourself, but do-it-yourself dirt-attracting carpet soaking machines. No. Call on the cleaning freaks from Zero Res. Big summer savings. 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at $129. Take 20% off air duct cleaning as well. Call them, 904-287-5727, and ask for the 1010XL special. Zero Res, spell it forwards or backwards. It's the right way to clean.
Joint replacement surgery is always a tough decision, but relief from chronic pain may be just around the corner. Dr. George Barra here, and there's a lot to consider to make sure you get the proper diagnosis and best path back to the range of motion and mobility you had. Age, lifestyle, and overall health all play a part. Let the team at Barrier Orthopedics give you a full analysis to help you make the best decision. Log on to BarrierOrthopedics.com or call the office to make an appointment. With offices across Jacksonville and ready to help you feel good again, we'll get you back on the road to recovery at Barrier Orthopedics.
Do your summer plans include travel? Make sure your prep includes more than just flights and hotels. Stay up to date with COVID-19 vaccination, especially if you're 65 or older or have certain health conditions. There have been surges in COVID-19 in the summer, too. It's important to help protect yourself no matter your destination. So check eligibility and schedule in minutes at VaxAssist.com. That's VAXAssist.com. Brought to you by Pfizer.
I'm Max Fink, and I'm your Gator Updater. Listen for the Gator Report several times a week on 1010XL.
Freshened up by San Jose Collision on the home of the Florida Gators, 1010XL.
Go, Gators!
It's Mike Dempsey, and now's the time to get your roof hurricane ready with Apex Roofing and Contracting of Jacks Beach. Look, our rainy season is no joke, and if your roof's got damage, leaks, or it's just plain worn out, don't wait. Apex is local, dependable, and will show up on time using only premium materials with ironclad warranties. No shortcuts, no stress, just quality work you can trust. Skip the storm season scramble. Reach for the peak with Apex Roofing and Contracting in Jacks Beach or visit apexroofingfl.com.
Ready to ride the waves? Best Bet St. Augustine is turning up the heat with our Summer Splash promotion. We're giving away over $40,000 in cash and prizes, including a brand new 2025 Yamaha Wave Runner. From now through August 8th, every hour you play poker or table games earns you an entry to win. It all leads up to the grand prize drawing on August 9th. The more you play, the more chances you have. Don't miss your shot to make a splash this summer. Visit bestbetjacks.com for all the details. That's bestbetjacks.com.
Florida heat hitting like a heavyweight? Time to call in the champ. KO Electric and HVAC. We knock out the heat and power up your comfort. Fast, reliable, and undefeated in home service. KOElectricJacks.com. KOElectricJacks.com.
Grow your hair back. IHRS offers the latest technology of hair transplants and restorative treatments.
Fast, easy, and effective.
With over 35 years' experience, our team is committed to delivering exceptional results. Hair restoration is for us, and it can be for you too.
See how IHRS technology can grow your hair back. Go to hairforme.com or call 904-777-IHRS, 777-4477 for $250 off.
Tired of changing out bad sod year after year? Get it done right with Roundtree Sod. Big or small, they have it, and always supplied farm fresh. For a lush, legendary green lawn, call 7414-SOD for a free estimate. 7414-SOD.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
1, 2, 3, my baby don't mess around because she loves me so, and this I know for sure.
Taylor Dahl, RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks with you, Mia O'Brien on assignment. This week we are ranking the NFL divisions by quarterback as Outcast plays in the background. So we chose AFC West first with the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Raiders. AFC North second with the Bengals, the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Browns. And then the NFC East so far third, Eagles, Commanders, Cowboys, and Giants. Taylor and I did not look at each other's rankings prior to this exercise, but we are so far 3 for 3. Taylor,
somebody on the text line said they're proud of me because he said it's refreshing that Taylor doesn't let her personal disdain for Aaron interfere with her analysis.
I would like to think that, and whether it's me with college football or things like that, I can still appreciate talent even if it's on a rival's team.
I've said that too. I've said that too.
You actually had Aaron Rodgers higher in your rankings when we did the AFC.
Yeah, I think I had him as like 6 or something in our
I had him
AFC
way lower.
Yeah. I also think that some of that is personal experience. Like I've seen firsthand so many times what he can do to a team as soon as you think that you think he breaks his leg and he comes back out and throws 4 more touchdowns. But he's also on Pat McAfee right now staring at me. So.
He's staring right into your soul. All right, so I will take a guess that we are still the same with our fourth division. And the reason that I'm going to guess that is because I went with the NFC North, and that is your division as far as the Bears division, with, of course, the Lions with Jared Goff, the Packers with Jordan Love, the Bears with Caleb Williams, and the Vikings with J.J. McCarthy. And I really had to work hard to separate the quarterbacks from the overall talent in this division.
Yeah.
But for me, Jared Goff has been doing this for 10 years in the league. He is probably one of the most underrated quarterbacks in all of the NFL. Like, no one ever puts him in the top 8, so to speak, and yet consistently year over year, he has shown that he's a top 8 quarterback. The Packers with Jordan Love, certainly the first year that he played, it wasn't his rookie season, but the first year he played, everyone was wowed by him. Not as great last year. The Bears with Caleb Williams, I think there's a really high ceiling for Caleb. I'm not going to discount, if I'm going to take away Trevor's rookie season with the mess that was here, it may not have been to that extent in Chicago, but I do think that it wasn't a great situation offensively for him. And so
coaches were fired before Urban was fired.
That is also true, which is crazy because Urban was fired really early on, or should have been fired probably even earlier on. But Yeah, I think Caleb Williams can be a good quarterback in this league and certainly has a lot of weapons around him now. And then I have no idea about J.J. McCarthy with the Vikings. Certainly watched him closely at Michigan, and the Vikings have faith in him. And so if Kevin O'Connell believes in him and the staff there, then I suppose I should, because they decided to keep him over Sam Darnold, who had a pretty good season last year. But I've got the NFC North fourth. What say you?
Yeah, so you have the NFC North a couple spots before I have the NFC North.
Now I'm finally surprised.
So I have the AFC East. I think that same conversation. You have one of the top 4 quarterbacks in the NFL in Josh Allen. So you automatically, to me, that weighs it a little more. If I'm weighing a Patrick Mahomes alone, then Josh Allen, for a lot of people, are right behind. We have the conversation. It's similar with Lamar Jackson. A lot of people have that Josh Allen as the next best quarterback in the NFL. I personally have Joe Burrow and then him, but that's a different conversation. I think that Tua, we've seen the ups and downs of Tua Tagovailoa, and it's really hard to fully put a grasp on what Tua is. But I do think that if we give excuses for some of the other quarterbacks in the league when it comes to offensive lines, when it comes to injuries, when it comes to, it's not his fault that these things have happened. And when it comes to concussions, some of them have been his fault. Some of them have not been his fault. And it's an unfortunate circumstance that he's had to deal with, that he's kind of concussion prone. But the guy completes like 70% of his passes every single year. And I know Tyreek Hill helps that. But I do think that you probably don't see that touchdown to interception ratio as high as you would like it. But he only played 11 games last year and had 19-7. And completed 72% of his passes last year when he was healthy. And you saw how drastically that offense died when Tua Tagovailoa wasn't in charge of it. So to me, that's one of the biggest indicators of how important a quarterback is to the team, when the backup comes in and things die. Here, they honestly got a little better when Trevor Lawrence wasn't here and Mac Jones came in, it felt like, for a stretch of time. And so I do think that, and that happens in other teams, the quarterback goes down. How about with Jordan Love? Jordan Love goes down. Malik Willis comes and wins a couple games when Jordan was out. That's just how well and functional those offenses can run. And I do think it kind of correlates a little bit to the quarterbacks. But I do think, too, it's hard for me not to put him towards at least the top. He's not a top 10 quarterback, I don't think, to me. But I think if he stays healthy, he has the potential to be that. I just don't know if we've ever really gotten the full chance to be able to see that out of Tua. And then I've told you, obviously, with Justin Fields, I think that similar to him, he's just been kind of stuck in these places that haven't been the best environments for him. And then last year, when it was, even though they benched him for Russell Wilson, he had 10 touchdowns to 1 interception. And you could really see some of the flashes of Justin Fields when what he's able to do, especially when you let him use his legs. Like, he has to go to a team that says, hey, use this. You had in your rookie season, or I guess when he officially started that first season, had almost 1,000 yards, and he was breaking all sorts of rookie records with multiple passing touchdowns and rushing touchdowns in one game. And he has just this elite athleticism that if somebody knows how to coach that in the right way, I think it could be beneficial for him. Is that the Jets? I don't know. We will find out. But then Drake May. I think Drake May last year, in a lot of moments, really flashed. And I do think that we're going to be talking about Drake May taking another massive step, especially with some of the offensive pieces that they've added there in New England and trying to fix that offensive line. Another conversation that I think a lot of teams are having outside of Jacksonville too. So yeah, I have that first, and Josh Allen weighs a lot of it for me, but I do think those other 3 quarterbacks all, to me, have a lot of potential. It's a little bit of a guessing game because of injuries and because of new teams and because of just year 2. But I do have them, and I think Allen kind of pushed it up a little bit for me.
I can understand that. When it comes to the PFF rankings, again, they have the AFC West and a 38-point total. The points are not as important, just to show you the gap. The next closest team, they had the NFC East with 56 points.
Okay.
And then AFC North and NFC West would be tied for third with 60 points. And then they have the NFC North with 66. All right, let's get it to college football on the other side and chat with our good friend Ira Schofel from warchant.com, talk all things Florida State after Thomas Castellanos had some interesting comments yesterday, and then we'll continue our division rankings in a little bit. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Some players have talent, others have heart. But tonight, I've seen players with talent who I didn't know had any.
1010XL.
And others with heart who I thought only had talent.
Where talent meets heart.
Born in Jacksonville, raised on Southern Rock, and coming home to the Florida Theater, it's Molly Hatchet. Saturday, June 28th. Get your fill of Southern Rock fury. Grab your seat at floridatheater.com. It's a hometown homecoming Molly Hatchet.
Hey guys, Taylor Doll here of Helmets and Heels. It's the little things like a peach milkshake on a warm day that makes summer sweet. And now you can head to your local Chick-fil-A and enjoy a favorite summer treat again. Hand-spun in the old-fashioned way, this refreshing milkshake features Chick-fil-A ice cream and peaches. It's the perfect cold treat to enjoy outside on a warm day or with friends and family after dinner. And it's here for just a limited time, so swing by your local Chick-fil-A and treat yourself today.
Plumbing problems? AC not blowing? Septic tank doing whatever septic tanks do? Don't call 3 different companies and play contractor roulette. Just call Duck Duck Rooter. Waddle over to duckduckrooter.com. When you're stuck, call the duck.
Brackish Vodka, the spirit of the sportsman and proud partner of the Jaguars, wants to make your flight in and out of Jax a fun one. Stop by Vino Volo in the airport and enjoy 2 signature brackish cocktails. Vino Volo has amazing food and cocktails before your flight. Brackish Vodka is the first clean craft vodka and made right here in Jacksonville, Florida. Brackish Vodka for whatever your sport is. If your sport is flying, your vodka is Brackish, proud partner of the Jaguars.
Are you 18 years or older, just got married, just got divorced, or have children? Listen up. Have you done your last will and estate planning? If you have questions, call Matt Hinson with the Hinson Law Firm. Reach him at 527-1700, offices Jacksonville, Florida, and don't let the state decide your fate.
What does your dream backyard look like? Hey, it's Joe C. and my friends at CSS Fireplaces and Outdoor Living can design an outdoor kitchen layout custom built to your taste and lifestyle. You dream it, they can build it. CSS Fireplaces and Outdoor Living. Visit cssoutdoor.com.
This Date in Sports History is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On June 24th, 1992, Portland would become the first city outside of New York to host the NBA Draft, and the Orlando Magic would select Shaquille O'Neal with the #1 pick.
Maxed out on credit cards, struggling with high-interest debt? You could pay it all off in days with Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan. Hey, it's Prosser here. Get cash out now without touching your low-rate first mortgage. No appraisals, no waiting, no BS. The Rapid Equity Loan Program at Loan Pronto is amazing. One Loan Pronto client just got $300,000 approved in under 24 hours. They paid off debt, renovated their kitchen, and cut their monthly expenses by $1,800. That's a huge turnaround. Instant approvals, low rates, no hard credit pull up front. That's Loan Pronto. Listen, your home equity is yours. Use it. Get cash to consolidate your debt down to one easy, low monthly payment. Call Loan Pronto now for a free instant appraisal for your home and see how much cash you can get today. Loan Pronto is an A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and have nearly 2,500 5-star Google reviews. Call now and start the conversation. Go to loanpronto.com or call 999-1508. That's loanpronto.com.
You've got a lot on your plate. The last thing you need is car trouble. At Maxie's Mechanics, we help you keep your cars, trucks, and SUVs running safely. Visit MaxieAutoRepair.com today for honest service, reliable repairs, and peace of mind for you and your family.
With 50 years of fabrication expertise in towing products, the family at Cannons of Jacksonville can repair or install precisely what you need to tow with confidence. Visit cannonsofjacks.com, where quality and customer satisfaction collide.
Need cash? Beaches Jewelry and Pawn has cash, and they're ready to buy guitars, surfboards, jewelry, firearms, tools, and especially gold. And gold market prices are at a record high. Get cash on the spot at Beaches Jewelry and Pawn in Jacks Beach.
Registration is now open for the Circle K Greater Jacksonville Kingfish Tournament. Over $250,000 in cash and prizes available, with payouts up to 20 places. Of course, there's great prizes for lady anglers, and bring along your junior anglers as well. Register today at kingfishtournament.com. Even if you're not on the water, spectators will enjoy fun exhibits, food, kids' activities, and a fireworks display at the Circle K Greater Jacksonville Kingfish Tournament.
With Lee and Kate's glass, you're gonna see a big difference.
Hey, it's Frank Frangie. Look, when it comes to glass needs around the home, there's one name I trust, Lee and Kate's. It's local, family-owned, and they've been part of our community since 1926. They've taken great care of me over the years, and I know they'll do the same for you. Visit leeandkatesglass.com.
With Lee and Kate's glass, you're gonna see a big difference.
Lucas
Lucas Tree Service is a certified arborist and a local family-owned business with over 45 years of experience. They specialize in tree removal, trimming, and stump grinding for both residential and commercial properties. Get prepared for storm season and receive top-notch customer service from Lucas Tree Service, 904-241-3533. Online at lucastreeservice.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, another great guest on the Checkmate Coatings phone line. Hello. Your floor's missing piece.
Taylor Dahl, RJ Saunders. I'm Lauren Brooks with you. Our good friend Ira Schofel from warchant.com joins us now to talk all things Noles. Ira, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thanks for having me. How you guys doing?
We are great, thank you. We are always wanting to talk college football. And of course, Thomas Castellanos' comments yesterday sparked a lot of conversation here on the Superstation. Before I get to what he actually said, I want to gauge the fan base temperature right now. We know Mike Norvell didn't have a great season, obviously, last year at 2-10, and great is probably not great is an understatement. But Ira, where do you think the fan base is as far as the future of Florida State football?
I think there's some mixed, just like always, every fan base is not just everybody doesn't see things, everything the same way. But I would say that, it's pretty astounding how quickly so many people have turned on Mike Norvell. A year ago at this time, they're coming off of a 13-win season. They had won 19 straight games at one point, put all those guys in the NFL. It looked like Mike Norvell was the king of the transfer portal. They had a really good recruiting class at this point last year. Going into until last fall, people thought they might have a top 5 recruiting class. Really, everything was going in the right direction. And then you go 2-10, and it's pretty amazing how quickly things turn. And even people that I know that are friends of mine or people that I know longtime fans who have been pretty level-headed, who are like, nope, we're done with this guy. There's no way you can possibly go 2-10. You can't possibly make all the mistakes he's made and come back from it. But I don't know that that's really fair. And I think there are still some people who believe, yes, he had a bad year. He made a lot of bad decisions. So hopefully he can turn it around. But I think the majority of the fan base is very skeptical about whether he can do it because, truthfully, I don't know. I honestly don't know if a coach has ever come back from 2-10 and had a good career at that school.
Yeah, Ira, I think the conversation that a lot of people have is just maybe the little bit of a different feeling last year when DJ Uyunglele and all of the practices, and they came here to Jacksonville to practice, and there was a lot of people leaving just saying that felt like something was missing. So far, when it comes to Tommy Castellanos and how things have felt this year, maybe on the field, but especially when it comes to the locker room side, I feel like the comments he made, in my opinion, may instill a little bit of confidence into a team that probably lost a decent amount of that last year, even with the new pieces that have arrived. Have you guys noticed that from a Castellanos compared to what DJ, the feeling of that was last year?
Yeah, I mean, Tommy definitely, when he walks in the room, it's a totally different experience. DJ is just a much calmer guy, an older guy. I don't think, even when he was a 5-star recruit that first showed up at Clemson, I don't know if he was that big personality that Tommy Castellanos has. And if you go back to, when Castellanos was playing high school football up there in South Georgia, his coaches then talked about he's the guy that when he walks in the cafeteria at high school, he just smiles, everybody gravitates to him. He's that kind of guy, again, for Florida State fans, kind of a Jameis Winston personality. Now, the play, obviously, we'll have to see how he does, but he's got that kind of personality. So he's a guy, I think, that part of why they were attracted to him, I think he checked off a lot of boxes when Gus Malzahn joined Mike Norvell and decided to kind of retool this offense. I think they saw Castellanos, A, he's a playmaker, B, he doesn't need a great offensive line. You get as good an offensive line as you can get, but you need he would be a guy who could create without a great offensive line. And then somebody to kind of breathe some confidence into his team. So, yeah, he's definitely that kind of personality. There's mixed feelings, I think, in the fan base, certainly about what he said yesterday about Alabama and even himself and whether or not that was appropriate. But I think from a team standpoint, this is what Mike Norvell and Gus Malzahn had wanted. I think they wanted somebody to come in and just bring some confidence to a team that lost all of it last season.
Yeah, for people who don't know what he said, in part, I dreamed of playing against Alabama. They don't have Nick Saban to save them. I just don't see them stopping me. I'm sure, Ira, that FSU fans cringed, at most of them at least, at that point in time. Like, this is not a Deion
Or if it's like, oh no.
Yeah, or that, yeah. Like, Deion Sanders, if he was the head coach at Florida State and a player said that, everybody would be like, well, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I think it's an odd juxtaposition with, again, what happened last year. Let's talk about that roster turnover. So many new guys on this team. Who are some guys that have caught your eye so far through spring practices?
Yeah, I think, there was one open scrimmage, so I can go by what I saw in that, but then also just talking to people around the program. I think the reception or the reviews pretty early for Tommy Castellanos were very positive. He's not a perfect passer of the football. He is, but his playmaking ability does kind of scream out at you. I think we saw it a little bit in the scrimmage we were at. And then also, people saw it during the practices in the spring. But otherwise around him, I think, Deuce Robinson was probably the star of the spring. He got a little bit banged up towards the end. I think maybe he had a hamstring and he was a little limited late. But in the first couple of weeks of spring, people loved him. For fans that are not as familiar with him, he's 6'6", can really run, was a two-sport athlete coming out of high school, football and baseball player. And, his ceiling is really, really high. He was at Southern Cal last year, caught 30-something passes, was kind of around 30 passes, was their basically number 3 wide receiver at Southern Cal. They had a great receiving core, but he came to Florida State partly because he wants to be a number 1 guy, but also because his dad, Dominic Robinson, played at Florida State. They also brought in Squirrel White from Tennessee, who's a very prolific receiver, more of a slot receiver. He was not available much in the spring. He was still coming back from an injury last season at Tennessee. That was probably the nucleus people are most excited about. And then you bring in a freshman and also a transfer in the summer at running back, Gavin Sawchuk, who was a running back at Oklahoma. He comes in. He basically almost had a 1,000-yard season a couple of years ago. And then you also have a freshman, Usman Kromah, who was super highly regarded coming out of high school. Florida State flipped him from Georgia. So those are the guys people are most excited about on offense. But we haven't seen them yet because those two guys arrived in the summer. And then defense, it's similar. There's a lot of new faces. You bring in Elijah Herring, a linebacker from originally was at Tennessee, then he was at Memphis, but a real productive college linebacker, a pass rusher from Nebraska, James Williams, and a few other pieces as well. So I think the most excitement is about these new faces.
Ira, just a quick glimpse going through the depth chart. I feel like Deuce, Squirrel, and Gunner are very state of Florida names to be on some football teams. When you're talking, you mentioned Gus Malzahn earlier, and I've had a lot of conversations with people about what maybe went wrong with Tommy Castellanos this last season in Boston College that led to him getting benched. Has Gus Malzahn or Tommy spoke on that at all, of maybe the things that went wrong and how that offense, how they can build the offense around the things that worked the year before for him at Boston College?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. They haven't gone too far into details. Certainly Gus has not because, I'm sure he doesn't want to comment on other coaches and what they did. But, I think that everybody understands that was probably a bad marriage to begin with. Tommy Castellanos had a lot of freedom that the year before that when he was a redshirt freshman there, or I guess a true sophomore at Boston College. Him improvising was a huge part of their offense. It's how they almost beat Florida State that year. And they embraced it with Jeff Hafley, the former head coach. Bill O'Brien comes in and wants to be very much, this is my system. You're going to stay in the pocket. These are the reads you need to make. And we're not going to just go off script because you're Tommy Castellanos and you like to make plays. And so it just was, even when they beat Florida State, they came into Florida State, second game of the season, and beat FSU. Tommy was not the old Tommy. It was very much kind of a
like watered down version.
Yeah, it was very, very, very anesthetic or antiseptic, I guess. It was just very kind of like by the numbers offense, and he didn't get to create. And the fact that Gus Malzahn, Mike Norvell, when they went and got Tommy Castellanos, and again, this is what it is. They went and got him. They didn't survey the field. When they ended up with DJ Uiagalelei, it was very much talking to a bunch of different quarterbacks. It's kind of where they ended up. It just was a marriage of convenience. They went and sought out Tommy because they wanted him in this offense. They wanted to build an offense around him. So it's hard to even compare what happened last year because it's a totally different situation. These guys are building an offense around him. They want him to play off script when it calls for it. They want him to go make plays. And I think Tommy's excited about it. I think that's kind of where that excitement in the interview came from. He's getting a chance now to kind of be who he's always wanted to be.
Ira Schofel with us from warchant.com, talking all things Seminole football. So 3-Star Mike is a moniker that Mike Norvell has gotten on social media. What do you say to those people who want to speak negatively about Mike Norvell's recruiting?
Well, listen, I mean, it's certainly and I tweeted a little bit about it yesterday, just kind of having fun. You know, it's the perception is that they are not even in the mix for the top players. Well, that's not true. What happened last year, if you go back, and we touched on this at the beginning, if you go back to this time a year ago, I thought Florida State might end up with a top 5 class in the country. They had an unbelievable receiver class. They had a bunch of big time prospects committed to Florida State at the end of the summer. But when you go 2-10, you can't keep those players. It's impossible. And so, they lost that recruiting class. They had to rebuild it at the end. But I don't think, that's an example of he can't recruit. It's just nobody can close on a class when you're 2-10 in your 5th year of the program. So right now, I think they've got, 10 or 11 4-star commitments for this class. The first thing people say when I tweeted what I tweeted was, well, it's not December. Can he hold on to them? Yeah, I get that. We all understand that. But if he doesn't go 2-10, then let's see how he closes. Again, he has not been a great high school recruiter at Florida State, but really the first couple of years, it was mostly he was focused heavily in the portal. High school wasn't a big priority. Now, last year, I think he would have had a chance to have a big time signing class, but the product was so bad on the field. So we'll see if he can hold on to him, but you'd rather be in a position where you need to hold on to him than having a bunch of school kids saying no in the middle of the summer.
Do you think his mindset when it comes to that portal has shifted a little bit? Because obviously the year that they should have probably made the college football playoff, there was a lot of guys that he hit on in the portal, and this last year just didn't quite feel that way. Do you think that he's adjusted the mindset of how to kind of work all of this moving into this season?
Yeah, I think he probably got a rude awakening after that 2023 season. Going back to those first couple of portal classes, when they went and got Johnny Wilson and Benson and some of those guys out of the portal, they didn't, even Jermaine Johnson. There wasn't, most head coaches kind of took the Dabo Swinney approach. Like a lot of coaches didn't want those portal guys. They always, back then, you guys remember, people would say, oh, well, there's a reason they're in the portal. There's got to be some baggage there. And so a lot of coaches went away from him, but Norvell embraced it. And, I think Lane Kiffin is another one that really embraced it. And so they got a lot of guys and they had a lot of success. And I think Mike Norvell thought he would have that success again after the 2023 season. But what he didn't realize was the market had completely changed. By that point, all these other schools realized, oh, wait a minute, we need to go get those portal guys, and we've got a lot more money than Florida State, and they couldn't get the kind of players they could get before. And then, they made some bad decisions after the fact. So I think he's realized over the last year that window of time that he really enjoyed and exploited early on when most coaches wouldn't go heavy in the portal, that time is long gone. So, yeah, I think over the last year and a half, they've really made a bigger emphasis on high school recruiting. Again, last year they didn't get the payoff because they were so bad on the field. But, yeah, I think he realizes that they need to do a better job in the high school ranks.
Ira, it's so tricky, right? If you don't win, you can't recruit. If you can't recruit, you don't win.
That's an ugly cycle.
Right, and then fans want to fire you and start all over and still have to pay the old coach and then pay the new coach buku bucks and then also have to pay the players. It's a crazy world, college football that we love so much. All right, so Alabama FSU, August 30th, 3:30 at the newly renovated Doak Campbell Stadium. Certainly all attention will be on the fact that Mike Norvell's not just the only coach on the hot seat. I would say that some Alabama fans would have Kalen DeBoer on the hot seat as well. We had this conversation yesterday about as long as FSU's competitive, that's good news for them. How do you think the fans feel about it like that?
Yeah, I mean, no FSU fan is going to say right now they're okay with being competitive. But I do think from a Mike Norvell standpoint, from a player psyche standpoint, from just the momentum of the new coaching staff, they need to hang in this game. If you win it, phenomenal. That's awesome. You're ahead of schedule probably. But if you get embarrassed, I just think it's going to be a challenge for some of these kids who lived through 2-10, going back to the embarrassing Orange Bowl at the end of the season before that. I mean, those kids that will be on this team still this fall that were here a year and a half ago in that Georgia game, those kids have been through a lot and a lot of misery. So you don't want to come, again, in the new stadium. big high-profile game to start the season and you don't play well. So, and I think some of those guys would question Mike Norvell and question this coaching staff. So if you just play well, give yourself a chance to win, are competitive, then I think you don't lose any momentum at all that you had this offseason that you started to build up. And then you've got a couple of really easy wins the next couple of weeks that Kent State and East Texas A&M. And then you've got a Virginia game on the road that's very winnable on the road. That would be a feather in your cap. Then you start getting into some of the tougher games with Miami and obviously Clemson down the road, some of the other tough games. But you could get some confidence going as long as you play decently in that first game. If you play poorly, if you don't show up, if Alabama looks like they're in a different league, I just wonder, even if you have enough talent to be good the rest of the season, I wonder if that creates, the narrative kind of starts to set in.
We have a lot of cranes around here around Everbank Stadium. How is it looking there with the new renovated stadium?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really cool. I think it's going to be neat. Some fans are a little bit concerned that there's going to be more club seating, which a lot of old school fans don't like. They want everybody sitting, and making sure they're all sitting there in their seats and, like the old metal bleachers days. But nowadays, people want to go inside for a minute and get a drink and things like that. So there's a little bit of concern from some fans about what it's going to look like. But no, I think it's going to look awesome. And they're also, at the same time, they're unveiling their new indoor facility, standalone football facility, which has been in the works now since I think I was in 7th grade. But they're finally getting that going. So it's going to be fun to walk around, Florida State's campus, I think, this fall.
All right, before we let you go, I wanted to ask you, a couple weeks away from the MLB draft, your thoughts on the way this college football season ended for the Seminoles and some Jamie Arnold and Lodis expectations from those guys in this draft.
Yeah, it would have been nice if they could have made it to Omaha for sure. I think it was a good team. I don't know that a lot of FSU fans thought they were a team that could win it in Omaha just because, the bullpen issues, which got exploited out at Oregon State in their super regional, had been a problem all season. But as far as, Jamie Arnold, I think, there was a point in this year where I think a lot of people thought he might be the number one overall draft pick. He wasn't quite as dominant consistently this season as, people hope, but he's still a phenomenal pitcher. He's got a really funky kind of arm angle from a left-hander. He's really difficult for hitters to pick up on. He's a mature kid. He's got really good stuff. I still think he's going to go very high in the draft, one of the top, I don't know, maybe 5 picks or so. Maybe he goes number 1. We'll see. But he's a rare talent, and I think he's going to have a chance to have a great career. Alex Lodis was the guy that was kind of a shock, going back to when he was at his former school. He was always a nice player, and even his first year at Florida State, he was a nice player. But I don't think we expected this. He didn't win the Golden Spikes Award, but some people felt like he should have. Some people thought he was the National Player of the Year. I think he was a guy you might have thought coming into the season, maybe he's a 8th, 10th round pick, something like that. Yeah, it sounds like he's going to go much earlier in the draft too, and it's cool because he's a neat kid and he's really put in a lot of work to turn himself into this kind of player.
Yeah, he certainly has, and he came from right here in Jacksonville, University of North Florida. All right, Ira, what's coming up on warchant.com?
Yeah, a lot of still tons of recruiting. FSU's been on this roll now in recruiting. They have, I think, 5 commitments over the last couple of days, including a 4-star quarterback, Jaden O'Neal. So they've really got recruiting going, so we'll have more coverage of that. They've got 1 or 2 maybe kids that left that I think that still may flip to Florida State or commit to Florida State in the coming days. And then a bunch of the newcomers, FSU has maybe 10 or 12, I'm not sure the exact number, players that arrived in the summer, high school kids and late arrivals, transfers, including that running back, Gavin Sawchuk from Alabama, who they're going to make available for interviews today, Wednesday, and Thursday. So we're going to have a bunch of interviews with the new faces that are here at Florida State this summer, and then we'll kind of keep counting down the days till we get to football camp.
It seems far away, yet it's really much closer than we think.
Yeah, and listen, I can't wait. Especially, I couldn't wait for last season to end. I can't wait for this season to start.
I feel like we've been there many times. You're so excited, and then the season starts going the way it does, and you're like, never mind. I don't want to do this.
How do I get off this ride?
Right. Just over 2 months away. Ira, thank you so much. We'll bug you again soon.
Sounds great. Look forward to it. Take care, guys.
All right, there he goes. Ira Schoffel, warchant.com. So much good stuff. And yeah, It's college football is so fickle. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Literally 1 year you are on top of the world, and the next year everybody wants you fired, and it takes a lot to get you off of that hot seat. And certainly we followed it closely with Billy Napier.
Yeah.
Everyone and their mother thought Billy Napier would be fired at some point in time last season.
Yeah.
And then Florida was able to win 8 games. Like we said, FSU went the other direction, only won 2 games. And how do you build your team when nobody wants to come to your program because
it's hard.
You just suffered 10 losses.
Yeah, and that's what it is. That's what makes college football so hard. And when it comes to the NFL, it's fickle there too. We talk about how quickly Nick Sirianni went from the hottest of hot seats or towards the hot of the hot seats that were the start of last year. And because the way it started too, there was rumors that him and Jalen Hurts, there was something weird going on between them. And all of a sudden it was like Sirianni's not going to make it through the season. And then they win the Super Bowl. The difference with the NFL is these player contracts, there's not as much availability for them to just up and leave if they want to. And in college football at this point in time, there is. If they don't want to, they can leave the school and hit the portal if they want to. They can. When it comes to recruiting, it's hard too because you're sitting there trying to recruit Florida, who's a hotbed of everything when it comes to players that go to the NFL, when it comes to players that go to the schools in Florida. You want them to stay there, but it's hard when all of the Florida teams have struggled pretty much, like Miami is the best one at this point. And Miami had a stretch of really bad football, and they just are getting to the point where people trust to go there. So it's hard, and that's the biggest thing is trying to keep those guys here in Florida to stay in Florida. And when you're competing with those other schools that are ahead of you right now, it makes your job even more difficult.
I think one of the more interesting transfers to me is Squirrel White from Tennessee going to FSU. Tennessee is a program that I think is on the rise, certainly with Josh Heupel. And Squirrel White at times, like his sophomore year, he had 67 catches for 803 yards and then took a way dip last year, 34 catches, 381 yards. I think he was a little bit banged up, but overall, like if you're not getting the same type of production, you look to go elsewhere. I'm just surprised to go from Tennessee to FSU, which struggled so badly.
I know. I wonder if he didn't like Nico. I wonder if there was like a
left and then Nico left.
Gone. Because he left before Nico was gone. So I'm wondering if because there were some rumors that the locker room and Nico and some of the players may have not been totally getting along because Nico was asking for so much money and people, there was some kind of disconnect. So I wonder if in certain circumstances like that, players leave, but then unfortunately, then he's gone. So, but I don't know. It sounds like Tommy Castellanos has built at least some sort of something in the locker room early on that they needed because it really felt like it had to have felt lost by the end of last season in there. And so to bring someone in that is bringing at least some personality and trying to get some players fired up, at least they have that right now. You've got to win games for it to continue, but it's a start.
Yeah, and the backup to Thomas Castellanos is Brock Glenn, who was there last year. Yep. So if something were to happen to Castellanos, you at least feel comfortable that Glenn knows the system, even though Gus Malzahn is the new OC. But still, there's definitely familiarity there. All right, Taylor Dahl has a tangent on the other side. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010X on 92.5 FM.
We live for this.
That is caught for the touchdown.
We live for Jaguars football.
And the Jags strike first.
1010XL, home of the Jaguars.
Yo, this is Tony from Tony D's. Are you looking for a great slice of pizza? Well, we have about 12 varieties. Most places won't have slices of pizza after lunch. At Tony D's, you can get a slice all day. It's always fresh at Tony D's Pizza. Bay Meadows and 295.
Why does Northeast Florida buy from Arlington Toyota? Because Arlington is the place to go for big selection. I'm talking over 800 vehicles, one location, and every day, low prices. Over 350 SUVs, over 175 trucks, over 275 cars. And if that's not enough, there's more on the way. Plus, 60-day exchange. You've heard me talk about it, but really, have you let it sink in? It's huge. Buy from Arlington, take it home. Drive it around 60 days. And if you decide it's not right for you, you just come on back and exchange it for another one. You even get Arlington's lifetime warranty with your new Toyota purchase. Why buy from Arlington? Because right now, you could get financing as low as 0% on select new models and no payments until January 2026. That's like 7 months from now. Crazy. Now you know why Northeast Florida buys from Arlington Toyota. Shop in person on Atlantic Boulevard, just a quarter mile east of 295, or at arlingtontoyota.com.
Your home is more than walls and a roof. It's where you breathe, drink, and power. power through life. At Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing, we're here to keep it all running smoothly. From clean, cool air to clean water, reliable power to expert plumbing, we do it all. For over 35 years, families have trusted Donovan to make their homes healthier, safer, and more comfortable. Call Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing today, 904-270-COOL, where health meets home.
David Lane here, and once again, I'm happy to share news of my success with back and knee surgeries at Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. Whatever it is that's bothering you, take it from me. Simply set an appointment today at Southeast Orthopedic Specialists and let them help you get back to normal life. I'm certainly glad I did.
Relieve pain and get back to life. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
It's about the hunt.
Captain Kevin Favor here with Captain Kirk and Jeff Lagerman.
We take you from the water to the woods.
On the Nimnicht Outdoors Show. Presented by Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic, and Air Conditioning.
Let's go to the woods, y'all.
Saturday mornings from 7 to 10 on 1010XL.
Hello, I'm Joe Cordell, founder of Cordell & Cordell. Divorce is complicated, especially when your small business or professional practice is involved. At Cordell & Cordell, we understand that these assets raise unique valuation and allocation issues. For 35 years, we've helped doctors, lawyers, and small business owners navigate divorce with confidence. Call us at Cordell & Cordell. Let me tell you, I understand on a personal level, your business is much more than a job. It's your legacy.
Jacksonville, Florida. Joseph Cordell, licensed in Missouri and Illinois. CordellCordell.com.
I'm Drew Scrimshire, president and publisher of the Jacksonville Business Journal. In business, timing is everything. That's why every morning at 8:15, our morning edition delivers the most important business news straight to the inboxes of Jacksonville's decision makers, executives, entrepreneurs, investors, and industry leaders. Want to know what the First Coast power players are reading before they start their day? Join them. Subscribe today to the Jacksonville Business Journal Morning Edition at bizjournals.com/Jacksonville.
Life is just so busy this time of year. Between work, the kids' games, family vacations, I need a yard hero to free up my weekends.
You mean somebody who does mowing and trimming?
Yeah.
How about mosquito control?
Yeah.
What about irrigation and pet waste removal?
You do that too? You're my lawn hero.
Find your lawn hero at heroeslawncare.com. Heroes Lawn Care, because every lawn needs a hero.
Hey, Jacksonville, Hicken here. I've been around the block or two, and Checkmate Coatings is who I'd call for my own place. They're my new MVP for stunning, long-lasting floors.
Brendan here with Checkmate Coatings. No massive overhead means top prices on top-quality pool decks, driveways, garages, and patios, too.
Visit CheckmateCoatings.com today. Checkmate Coatings, your floor's missing piece.
Checkmate Coatings, your floor's missing piece.
Home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
What was George Washington's salary when he was president?
Filing an insurance claim following a storm shouldn't be an ordeal. Southern Oak Insurance's claim team prepares for catastrophic situations well in advance. Log on to southernoak.com.
Our family protecting yours. Southern Oak Insurance.
George Washington's annual salary as president was $25,000, about $4.5 million in today's dollars.
Southern Oak Insurance. Our family protecting yours.
North Florida is growing with lots of new families joining our community. If you're one of them making the move here, your next move should be a call to American Electrical to create the best home automation system, enhancing your living experience. There are many ways your life can be made easier through smart home technology, voice-activated systems, automated lighting, total house temperature control. With American Electrical, they've got everything you need to automate your home and make it your true oasis. Check out American-Electrical.com, powered by professionalism and raising the excellence bar.
Hey, Hicken here for my friends at Zero Res. They want to help you clean your home or business. Big summer savings with 3 rooms clean starting at $129 and 20% off your air duct cleaning. Call them 904-287-5727 and ask for the 1010XL special.
This is your Southeast Orthopedic Specialist local sports update. I'm RJ Saunders for 1010XL.
This update brought to you by Awaken 180 as the Jacksonville Jaguars get ready for their 2025 football season with a full capacity of 60,000 plus fans. Everbank Stadium partners will be hiring for more than 1,000 part-time positions at a job fair today. The event will take place from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Prime Osborne Convention Center. To learn more about the employment opportunities, just visit jaguars.com/GST careers. In the NFL, Steelers QB Aaron Rodgers told the Pat McAfee show that he's pretty sure this is it, insinuating that this may be the last season of his NFL career, stating that is why he signed a one-year deal with the Steelers. Right now, 92 degrees at 103. Time and temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Taylor Dahl, RJ Saunders. I'm Lauren Brooks with you. Mia O'Brien on assignment this week. All right, Aaron Rodgers, Taylor Dahl said he's pretty sure that this will be his final NFL season. Pretty sure that this is it. So where will your sports hatred then go to?
I guess I can just fully focus back on the teams I hate rather than individual.
So the Packers.
Yeah, the Packers and the Titans obviously are the two that I hate the most in the NFL. So I can just focus back on that rather than having to put some of my energy into a single person.
Because I feel like you don't sports hate Jordan Love nearly as much.
I don't. He also hasn't. That could change, obviously, in 5 years if he continues to. If he beats us the way, if he beats the Bears the way that Aaron Rodgers beat the Bears, then that hatred comes back. But at this point, he also we're coming off a win against the Packers, so there's a little bit of lightness there that takes away from some of the hurt. But before that, the Bears hadn't beat the Packers since 2018. And
pain.
So much pain. So, it's just been this, with Aaron Rodgers, it's just been this huge, never-ending story of what exactly is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Is this his last year? No, is this his last year? So it does seem like, what does that look like, though? I mean, I'm genuinely interested if he comes out and has a really good season and takes the Steelers into the postseason and they win a game or two. Does he really not come back after doing something like that? Or maybe that's what he wants. Maybe he wants to go back on top or go out on top rather than going out the way he has recently.
Yeah, certainly. I feel like I would have sports hated Peyton Manning more if Tennessee had beaten Florida in the 4 years, in any of the 4 years or all of the 4 years that he had been at Tennessee. But because Florida won all those years, and then as a Colts quarterback, he tortured the Jaguars for sure. And I
hate Peyton Manning too.
I dislike him, but I wouldn't put him in.
I dislike.
For me, the biggest one right now, and you know this, is Azeez Al-Shaair, the Texans linebacker who deboed Trevor Lawrence, caused the basically season-ending concussion, and also because he already had the shoulder injury, he went ahead and had the shoulder surgery. But I thought it was a cheap shot. Everybody knows that watched that game, that it was a cheap shot.
Yeah.
He was clearly sliding, and we already knew he was injured. But other than him, I feel like I don't have as much sports hate right now. But it certainly can be elevated, whether Florida State plays better this year. Certainly Georgia has climbed up there. They've always been around for me as a rival of Florida, but because they've been so much better than Florida the last few years, winning 2 national championships a couple of seasons ago. Certainly, I don't like them.
Let me ask you this real quick, because somebody on the text line asked, and you being a Gator would be able to answer this probably better than I can. So he said, 5262 said, ladies, if the Gators badly lose to Miami, do you think that the groundswell to fire Billy start up again, especially if he doesn't hire a good OC and a loss comes from a really stupid play call or something in that sense?
I mean, football fans certainly get fired up when the head coach makes boneheaded decisions. And Florida's head coach has made some boneheaded decisions when it comes to the special teams, like we've talked about, having 2 number 3s run on the field, to some bad play calls against Tennessee when I thought Florida should have won that game. The Miami game specifically, it's September 20th. If you look at the schedule, that's the 4th game. It comes right after LSU. If Florida wins at LSU in that hostile territory, because that game is at 7:30 at night in Baton Rouge, and then if it's a bad loss to Miami, that's not going to look great. But I don't know that the fan base will completely lose its mind. You're always going to have those people that any loss, they're very vocal. But Florida, I mean, think of the stretch after Miami, the game at Miami, Taylor. Florida has Texas, and then Texas A&M, Mississippi State, not so hard, and then Georgia. Like, you have to just turn right back around and focus because the SEC schedule, as we know, is a gauntlet, especially with those upper echelon teams. And so I would like to think that the fan base would understand based off of what we saw last year, based off of how good Billy Napier's recruiting is right now. It is excellent. And the momentum that's in the program, that one bad loss wouldn't affect it. Look, Florida had a bad loss against Texas last year at Texas, right? In November. But the fan base understood DJ Lagway was out. The backup quarterback wasn't very good. Graham Mertz was already out. So I think they understood. So I guess it depends on the situation too. But there are fans that would still want Billy Napier fired after the way last season ended. So I can't speak for all the fans.
Yeah, and I think also, I think it would depend, to your point, the situation. And I also think that if it continues to be in-game issues with Billy, does Billy give up play calling, or does Billy start to do other things? Because then I could see the fan base starting to get frustrating. Like, cool, you can hit the portal and you can recruit, but if you can't coach in game, then you're hurting us. And so at some point, if that kept continuing to be a problem and he doesn't do anything about it, I could see people starting to turn.
Yeah, he did fire the special teams game-changing coordinator and hired a new one, and things got better. And I also wanted to caution people, and you're well aware of this, just because a head coach said at one point in time that they were the play caller doesn't mean that they are the play caller. Things could have changed, and the head coach does not, unless being asked in a press conference, does not have to tell everybody that. So do I think Billy Napier is probably getting some input on play calling? I would sure like to think so. If that's an area of weakness, you want to make that one of your strengths, and other people, if they can collaborate with you, that can become one of your strengths. So I don't know for sure that he's 100% calling every single play. I think it's smarter if he takes a little bit of step back and does have some help in that regard, even if it's not a true offensive coordinator. Like we saw, Mike Norvell gave up play calling, hired Gus Malzahn, and moved things in that direction. I would like to think that Napier is a really smart guy. His dad was a high school football coach for forever, that sometimes you do need help in those areas. And it's hard to be, for some guys, it's really hard to be a really good in-game head coach, managing everything, offense, defense, and special teams, and also calling the plays. But I'm assuming that's a Hurricanes fan, and they're going to be very high on Carson Beck and that Miami squad come September 20th. All right, time now for Taylor's Tangent.
Now, Taylor's Tangent, served up by Chick-fil-A on 1010XL.
So speaking of people I hate, I'm just kidding. I don't hate this person, but he did make me very mad in the series, the Cubs versus Mariners series. If you have not heard of a guy named Cal Raleigh, you probably should start paying a little bit of attention to him. He's
the FSU fans are well aware.
Yes. The Mariners catcher, obviously, he's having an insane season. He's hit his 32nd home run last night, which puts him on pace for 67 home runs for the year. So that alone is good, but he's also obviously a very good catcher, too. He's one of the best catchers and defenders at the plate. So you add on to that, which is he's just been incredible. And so he's on track, though, to post the best offensive season for a catcher in Major League Baseball history, at least by like the metrics that we can all track now. So Raleigh already has the most home runs by a catcher before All-Star break, surpassing Johnny Bench's 28, and he's also on pace for a 10.7 WAR, which blows out Buster Posey's record of 9.8. And obviously Buster Posey was a guy that we talked about year after year after year as being the best catcher in Major League Baseball. So all of that is fantastic. Go watch Cal. You'll probably see a home run if you turn on the game any night. That's just how he is. But the interesting thing to me, and as I was watching the series against the Cubs, they said his nickname, which is his nickname, if you don't know, is the Big Dumper. And I'm like, they said it a couple times, and I was like, what? Like, is this a joke? Is this really what he goes by? And then people started posting the jerseys they have that really does say Big Dumper on his jersey. So I went back because I was trying to figure out exactly like where this came from. How long has this been a nickname? What's going on? So it goes back to a former Mariners teammate, and he coined the nickname when they were in the minors together. And so it kind of started off as a joke at first, but you can probably guess, if you are guessing what possibly it means, it is actually because he has the size of his booty. And it's a joke in the baseball world that he's pretty thick, has some thick thighs and a thick booty. So a former minor league teammate came up with the joke of Big Dumper, and they said T-shirts that directly refer to the size of Raleigh's backside, a nickname that Raleigh understandably detested and was dismissive of from the first time it was uttered. He did not like initially. Now he's kind of accepted because fans have embraced it. He did say like it went away for a little bit, I guess, because when he was in the minors, it was a thing. And it's kind of fun when you're minor leagues. There's all the jokes you have, you have all the funny team names around the league, and they do fun stuff in games. So it was kind of okay. It's a minor league thing. And when he got called up, it went away for a little while. Gained some traction back, and now it's back. So Big Dumper is the best catcher in the Major League Baseball.
Did you see what his mom said when asked about it?
No.
The nickname? She said, it stinks, which is very clever.
That's funny.
Then she said she doesn't love it, but he has accepted it, to your point. And so I can understand as a mom, like that's not what you want people calling your son, because I think that's not the first thing people think about is like the big butt. Like I think they think something else. So I can understand that she doesn't necessarily love it, but at the same time, I think at the end of the day, when your son's playing as good of baseball as he is,
it's just such a dude nickname to come up with too. Like a dude made that name the moment.
100%. All right, let's give away some lunch.
Yes, we have lunch to Chick-fil-A. Give us a call at 641-1010, and you will get a free lunch to Chick-fil-A. Let's say caller number 1.
Caller number 1, fastest fingers out there, you get today's Chick-fil-A lunch. All right, we will continue our NFL divisions rankings by quarterback when we return. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
At 1010XL, we wear helmets and pads.
We hit, we win.
Get in the game every day.
And you do that in all things.
With 1010XL.
June is Men's Health Month, and here's your reminder to be proactive and get screened for early detection at Ackerman Cancer Center. Many cancer instances are largely preventable and treatable. So take steps now to minimize your risk factors at AckermanCancerCenter.com.
Mia here for Closets by Design. It's been a few months since they built my custom closet. You know how much I love it. My family's obsessed. Everyone here at 1010 HQ is always asking about it. So with summer here, why not finally create that custom garage workspace you want, huh? It's not just bedroom closets, folks. Closets by Design creates custom solutions for every space, lifestyle, and budget. Call and schedule your free in-home consultation and receive 40% off plus an additional 15% off. Visit closetsbydesign.com. Since 1901, generations of skilled union workers have built the backbone of our community. Hospitals, schools, the buildings where you work. Every year, a new apprentice class of Local 234, plumbers, pipe fitters, and HVAC technicians is stepping up, trained, driven, and ready to do great things. They're not just building our city, they're building their future. Local 234, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Visit UA234.com to become a member or contractor today.
Maxed out on credit cards, struggling with high interest debt? You could pay it all off in days with Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan. Hey, it's Prosser here. Get cash out now without touching your low-rate first mortgage. No appraisals, no waiting, no BS. The Rapid Equity Loan Program at Loan Pronto is amazing. One Loan Pronto client just got $300,000 approved in under 24 hours. They paid off debt, renovated their kitchen, and cut their monthly expenses by $1,800. That's a huge turnaround. Instant approvals, low rates, no hard credit pull up front. That's Loan Pronto. Listen, your home equity is yours. Use it. Get cash to consolidate your debt down to one easy, low monthly payment. Call Loan Pronto now for a free instant appraisal for your home and see how much cash you can get today. Loan Pronto is an A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and have nearly 2,500 5-star Google reviews. Call now and start the conversation. Go to loanpronto.com or call 999-1508. That's loanpronto.com.
Born in Jacksonville, raised on Southern Rock, and coming home to the Florida Theater, it's Molly Hatchet. Saturday, June 28th. Get your fill of Southern Rock fury. Grab your seat at floridatheater.com. It's a hometown homecoming with Molly Hatchet.
It's the Gator Podcast Channel with Frank Frangie and me, Dan Hicken, on all things Gators. Hacker and Denny Thompson have Gator Bites, and you can find them wherever you find podcasts or at 1010XL.com. Presented by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
Brackish Vodka, the spirit of the sportsman and proud partner of the Jaguars, wants to make your flight in and out of Jax a fun one. Stop by Vino Volo in the airport and enjoy 2 signature Brackish cocktails. Vino Volo has amazing food and cocktails before your flight. Brackish Vodka is the first clean craft vodka and made right here in Jacksonville, Florida. Brackish Vodka for whatever your sport is. If your sport is flying, your vodka is Brackish, proud partner of the Jaguars.
It's Mike Dempsey, and now's the time to get your roof hurricane ready with Apex Roofing and Contracting of Jax Beach. Look, our rainy season is no joke, and if your roof's got damage, leaks, or it's just plain worn out, don't wait. Apex is local, dependable, and will show up on time using only premium materials with ironclad warranties. No shortcuts, no stress, just quality work you can trust. Skip the storm season scramble. Reach for the peak with Apex Roofing and Contracting in Jax Beach or visit apexroofingfl.com.
Are you struggling with hair loss? At IHRS, we understand because we've been there too. We're dedicated to finding the best solution tailored just for you.
My hair looks great. It was thinning, and IHRS restored my hair.
It's now fuller, it's thicker, voluminous. It's made me feel great.
With the latest technology and FDA-approved laser therapy, PRP, and non-surgical hair addition, we offer guaranteed solutions for men and women.
With over 35 years of experience, IHRS found a hair restoration for us, and we can find one for you.
For me.
For me.
And me too.
Visit hairforme.com or call 904-777-IHRS. Get a free microscopic analysis and get to the root of your problem. This $395 analysis is yours for free. Call 904-777-4477 now.
Frank Franzi here for Coil Fencing. Jacksonville's full of memorable sports moments. Remember Tiger Woods' 60-foot putt on the iconic 17th? Gary Coate called it better than most. Better than most. Well, Coil Fencing is better than most. They're better than all. Coil has been that for nearly 100 years. So if you're in the market for a new fence, I recommend calling Coyle & Sons today. That's at 904-356-4821 or visit coiljax.com. That's COYLE Jax.com.
Plumbing problems, AC not blowing, septic tank doing whatever septic tanks do? Don't call 3 different companies and play contractor roulette. Just call Duck Duck Rooter. Waddle over to duckduckrooter.com. When you're stuck, call the duck.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks with you on this Tuesday afternoon. Mia O'Brien on assignment this week. All right, Taylor, let's continue on with our quarterback rankings by division in the NFL. So I so far have the AFC West with the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Broncos, the Raiders, followed by the AFC North, the Bengals, the Ravens, the Steelers, the Browns. Their quarterbacks, to me, are the top in all of the leagues as far as division goes. Then the NFC East, the Eagles, the Commanders, the Cowboys, and the Giants. And then I have the NFC North fourth with the Lions, Packers, Bears, and Vikings. You have AFC West and AFC North 1 and 2 also.
And then the East 3. But our first difference was I had the AFC East and you had the NFC North. So I had the Bills, the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Patriots in mine, obviously with Mayfield, Tua, and Allen.
Okay, so I'll give you my 5 and 6 because they're somewhat similar, but this was a different one. NFC West, I've got at 5. Rams, of course, with Matthew Stafford. The 49ers with Brock Purdy. They recently signed Brock Purdy. The Cardinals with Kyler Murray. And the Seahawks with Sam Darnold. The reason I went with this group is I do think Stafford and Purdy are 2 really good quarterbacks. Even though Stafford's getting up there in age and we weren't sure if he was going to play for the Rams again this season, I still think he's a really smart, accurate, talented quarterback. And yeah, he's got good weapons, but we've seen him on the Lions when he had only really one weapon and he was still really successful. Yeah. So and of course his head coach is a great play caller in Sean McVay. Brock Purdy, people want to say game manager, by all means, if you want to say that. And I know that the knock on him has been, look at who he has on his team, that roster. But I think you could put Brock Purdy on other teams and he would be equally successful. Even though he was picked with the last pick in Mr. Irrelevant in the draft, I think he's a guy that a lot of teams would like to have on their roster. I think he's a good person too, like off the field, but it's more than that. It's that he knows where to go with the football and he knows where to place the football. And those are two really important things. And then Kyler Murray, the jury's still out for me, and Seahawks Sam Darnold. Certainly his play was elevated last year. Not sure what we're going to see now that he's in Seattle. Kyler Murray, I really don't know what to make of him. One of the most exciting, tantalizing type of prospects coming into the NFL. We weren't sure if he was going to play football or baseball. He's a super talented athlete. And now it just doesn't, we're not sure if he works hard enough since that was in the contract. Then they took that out. I'm not sure what to make of Kyler Murray at this point in time. If he can figure out how to use his dual threat abilities and make smarter decisions with the football, then he could be really good. And for me, Sam Darnold, I think he's a good placeholder for the Seahawks, but I never thought after the Vikings came to Jacksonville and we got to see the Jags take them on, I thought immediately, this guy is not winning the Vikings a Super Bowl, or at least the Vikings aren't winning a Super Bowl with Sam Darnold at quarterback. And so I've got the NFC West at number 5.
Yeah, so I actually do have the NFC West at 5 also.
Right.
And very similar for me when it comes to Stafford. I think Stafford always has been one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he got stuck in a place in Detroit that had nothing around him. You had Megatron, and that was about it. Outside of that, you couldn't name most of the receivers there. Obviously, with like Bush, you had some running backs that kind of had moments there. But outside of that, it was always terrible offensive lines. It was always terrible defenses. There wasn't any weapons outside of Megatron most years. And the coaching, you saw coach after coach and offensive coordinator after offensive coordinator go through Detroit. And so they were in this world of just lost, which I think that it's a testament to what they've been able to build now, having this team that for so long was so bad, and then so quickly being able to build something and also feel like they built something that will last. We will see now with both their coordinators leaving how much those guys factored in. But I always have been a huge fan of Stafford. When it comes to Sam Darnold, I don't know. I was so hesitant on Sam Darnold for so long when it came to the Vikings, and I kept being like, it's going to catch up, it's going to catch up, it's going to catch up. And he would have like one bad game, and I'd be like, see, there it is. And then the next week he would bounce right back and do the same thing again. How much of that was KOC and Udinski and McCown and some of these guys surrounding him, building, kind of just making him the best possible guy, and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and Aaron Jones and the offensive line, I don't know. I think they had moments of really good offensive line play, but then they had moments when Cam Robinson had to come in where he had the most penalties, the most sacks allowed in the league, and Sam Darnold still had insanely good numbers during that time too. So I don't know yet with Sam Darnold, but it's hard for me not to put him in this middle of the pack just because of what he's done this is recency bias, but I think that he still has some stuff to prove, especially not being with KOC anymore. When it comes to Kyler, I've never been the biggest Kyler Murray fan personally. But I do think, to your point, there's just so many, when he's able to do what he can, and that's use his legs. He's another guy that can use his legs. When he's not able to do that, it feels like he kind of panics, and that's when things go downhill. Last year, we saw a little bit of the resurgence of what Kyler Murray can look like when you let him run, and when he can run. Like, you have to be healthy to be able to move the way that he moves sometimes, and we did see a little bit of that last year. So I'm interested to see, especially, year 2 with Marvin Harrison Jr., what does that look like? Because there was moments last year where you're like, wow, this could be dangerous if this continues to grow. So that's why, and the Brock Purdy, the game manager, people want to crap on that. I agree with Denny Thompson in the sense of, if you're a game manager, you still have to manage and you still have to make the right decisions. And when you're having a guy like Brock Purdy, who, like last year, people talk about that 20-12, which is not exactly what you want to see. That was also only 15 starts, so he missed a few games there. But the year before, you throw 31 touchdowns and 11 picks, and the year before you were picked in the very last pick in the draft. I also think the year before, you talk about a guy, they spent money on Trey Lance, and people were really high. Guys like Pete Prisco thought Trey Lance was going to be I think you really liked Trey Lance and thought they were going to be very successful in the NFL. He gets benched. Brock Purdy immediately comes in and makes that offense look better. And so to me, I think from year 1, we already saw that Brock Purdy can, yes, manage, but I don't think that's a negative trait. I think that if you can manage an offense, then you can be a successful quarterback. I think that's what we saw from Tom Brady early on in his career, and then he developed into something more. Not saying Brock Purdy's going to be Tom Brady, but you can see players develop and get more comfortable as they have time in the NFL. So for me, I agree. They're my next behind that.
Yeah, I don't remember liking Trey Lance, but
somebody did. Somebody on the station was. I know Pete Prisco was. He was very high on Trey Lance, and there was somebody else, but I couldn't remember who it was.
Yeah, I think just because they didn't have enough for me to see when he was in college, because especially that COVID year. All right, I'll rattle through my final ones. AFC East with the Bills, the Dolphins, the Patriots, and the Jets. You went through. You had them at your fourth spot.
So you had East next?
Yes.
Okay. So we just swapped East and North is what
exactly.
we did.
Yeah. Josh Allen, obviously fantastic quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. One of the best in the league, if not the best. You can always make those arguments right now after the season he had and the season Mahomes had. Tua Tagovailoa with the Dolphins. There's just been too many injuries. And if we're going to knock Trevor Lawrence for that, we're going to knock Tua Tagovailoa for that and talk about some weapons, which that's what's so funny in this quarterback conversation is we're constantly talking about the environment. We're supposed to be talking about the player, but the environment obviously adds to it. Patriots, Drake May, so many people are high on him. We shall see what year two with Mike Vrabel, his first year with Mike Vrabel as the head coach, but year two for him looks like. I guess I wasn't that impressed when the Jaguars played the Patriots. I'm not saying he's terrible. I just am not as high on him as a lot of national people. And then Justin Fields for the Jets. The situation, again, Justin Fields might be successful one day for a different team, to your point earlier, with his mobility. But I don't know that it's going to be with New York. But I like Justin Fields as a prospect still, but I think he's still more of a raw talent. All right. And then the final two, the AFC South and the NFC South. I knew both of us would have these at the bottom, but what is your six?
Yeah, so my six is the NFC North. That's six.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. So six.
Like you said,
so NFC
them,
North.
right.
And the reason that I flopped them, we have the East, because you have Northwest, the
NFC North fourth and the AFC East.
Yeah. And so I have AFC East, NFC West, NFC North. And the reason that I did that, I went back and forth with this a few times. Number one, I really like Jared Goff. But I think that he's a good quarterback. I wouldn't put him in my top quarterbacks personally right now at this point. I think that he has those moments. I also see him in certain aspects, in certain areas last year. I think the run game really saved him in a lot of situations that could, and this is watching a lot of Lions football. I think that he's really, really good in some moments. And then there's moments where that having David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs absolutely saved him in certain games. And so I also want to see him without Ben Johnson, and I want to see him continue to develop and do a little bit more than maybe just kind of rely on some of the crazy kooky things to that happen well around him to help him. I still think he's good. I would maybe put him in, I would have to go through the list. I don't know where I'd put him on my rankings, but he's not like a top 5, 6, 7 to me. McCarthy, I don't know. Everybody from the Vikings world and reporters and media all say that they love J.J. McCarthy. There's a reason they parted ways with Sam Darnold. They have the confidence that McCarthy can come out and shine. I don't know. I didn't love the draft pick in the first place. We haven't really seen much. You miss your whole first year of the NFL. Who knows what that looks like? I'm not high on Jordan Love either. I think that Jordan Love had 8 good games at the end of one season and 8 good games at the end of the new season. I had my whole tangent last year. It was only that when the Toyota-thon is going on that he's been good. When he is blitzed and pressured, he has the worst QBR in the NFL, and he completes 52% of his passes. And I think that teams are going to continue to build off of that. And if you don't know how to handle those pressures, I think you're not going to be able to be a top tier quarterback. And then Williams, I think there's still questions. I think that there were a lot of good things last year, but there were also a lot of bad things that, yes, how much was it he almost got sacked 70 times. How much of it was that? How much was it that Shane Waldron couldn't even make it 7 weeks into the NFL as a play caller? So there's a lot of factors, I think, but I still need to see more. That's why I have them lower. And then AFC South is next for me. Yeah. I went back and forth between NFC North and AFC South here, honestly, which is kind of crazy because you had the NFC North higher. But for me, it was always, I feel like Stroud and Lawrence are Goff and Love to me, where it's they have those moments. They've had a good seat, Stroud when it comes to his rookie season and how it was, and then kind of the drop off. Reminds me of certain situations that we've kind of seen from Jordan Love with the half and half. And then when it comes to Trevor Lawrence and Jared Goff, I feel like there's similarities there of these flashes of 5-6 games that are really good and then a stretch where there's nothing. And then the other two kind of remind me when it comes to is McCarthy and Ward, who you don't know because they're just playing their first season here. And then so to me, it was Williams or Anthony Richardson, and obviously Williams upped them for me. So I have the AFC South, and then I have the NFC South last. I wanted to pull them a little higher, honestly, because I really do like Baker Mayfield, and I think that we've seen Baker Mayfield just
dragged
grow.
down by everybody else.
I know. I'm sorry, Baker, and I actually am high on Michael Penix. I think that Michael Penix is going to be a good quarterback, and we're going to see a big jump from him this year, especially with the weapons they have in Atlanta. But Bryce Young and then the kind of what if of the Saints really drags all of that down for me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the AFC South with the Jaguars, the Texans, the Titans, and the Colts, it's a situation where CJ Stroud and Trevor Lawrence, to your point, they have defined themselves as guys that if they get to a certain point in the season and things are going well, then I think they can be successful. But we saw, I think CJ Stroud take that step back last year because of the injuries that happened in the bad offensive line.
Yeah.
On a different team with a better offensive line, like he probably wouldn't have had as good of a season as he did his rookie year. And Trevor Lawrence, when things start to fall apart, they really fall apart.
Yeah.
And I guess some quarterbacks can handle the chaos, and Baker Mayfield is one of those guys, but not every quarterback can. And certainly Baker has more experience than those two guys. But if given the right situation, I think they both can be, Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud, I think they both can be top 8 quarterbacks in the AFC for sure. And so that would be certainly top half in the league in general. The problem is I don't have any idea what the Titans will be with Cam Ward.
Yeah.
I think Cam Ward might be pretty good besides throwing a ton of interceptions. But overall, that, again, the situation just isn't set up for him to be successful. And then Anthony Jones,
Both of them.
Richardson, and Daniel Jones, we'll see. Certainly a lot of injuries. I know that Colts reporters think that Daniel Jones will most likely get the start because of the shoulder injury to Anthony Richardson. So we'll follow that storyline through training camp. And then finally, the NFC South outside of Baker Mayfield with the Buccaneers. Panthers, Bryce Young, while he started to play better after being benched, there's still a long way to go for me. The Falcons, Michael Penix Jr., I loved when they drafted him, even though I knew that flew in the face of them signing Kirk Cousins for all that money. But you have to look to your future. And one person may have made the Kirk Cousins decision, but I think the person who drafted Michael Penix Jr. in the top 10 made the right decision. And then, the Saints situation. I saw one bold prediction that, like, Derek Carr is going to come back and play in the NFL this season, and I had to laugh. Tyler Shuck, some people are really high on him.
They are,
To your point earlier, we'll do this again in a year, and we shall see what these look like after the 2025 season. All right, we've got one segment to go. I've got today's Terminix Pest of the Day for you on the other side. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 10 to Nix on 92.5 FM.
Every game is a story.
And the game is tied.
Every play is a moment waiting to happen.
We're going to overtime.
Your home for the most play-by-play is 1010XL.
AA Automotive helps keep your vehicle in dependable and safe condition. Call Sam, Harry, or Joe, and they'll check your brakes, tires, fluids, electric, and motor, so your ride runs smooth on the road. That's AA Automotive on Richard Street.
The joys of home ownership. Until the plumbing backs up, the AC goes out, or your septic system decides to act up. The good news? You don't have to call 3 different companies when things go wrong. Just call my friends at Duck Duck Rooter. They're your one-stop shop for plumbing, septic, and air conditioning, all under one roof. So whether it's a leak, a clog, or your system just won't cool, they've got you covered. Call them today at 904-862-6769 or visit duckduckrooter.com. Duck Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic, and Air Conditioning. One call does it all.
Ready to add some value to your day? The everyday deals at Sonny's have got you covered. Right now, you can get the pork big deal for 10, the pork and rib combo for 12, all you can eat ribs for $19.99, and our new loaded barbecue potato for $11. Available all day, every day. And that's why it's always Sonny's here. Sonny's Barbecue, local pitmasters since '68.
Joe C for Preferred Roofing, reminding you your roof is more than just felt and shingles. It's a system that not only keeps your home dry, but also impacts your heating and cooling bills. Preferred Roofing and Construction is a GAF Master Elite roofing contractor lauded for having the ability to educate and inform homeowners on their options. Why GAF and Preferred Roofing? They're veteran-owned and operated with ties to Duval for decades. A family business ready to make sure your family has a good roof over its head. Log on, preferredroofingjax.com.
If you're 35 to 75, you could get life insurance today. No medical exam needed. I'm Cody with Harborstone Financial. One call could protect your family for life. Call me today, 904-885-9566.
Hey, it's Carline here. If you're shopping for a new ride, you've got to check out Atlantic Infinity. Not only do you get a luxury vehicle, you also get the Atlantic Infinity Promise Free with every new car. That's almost $2,500 in added value just for buying smarter, and you don't have to sweat it out on the lot. Shop in their indoor climate-controlled showrooms. It's cool, comfortable, hassle-free. They're on Atlantic near St. John's Bluff, or browse anytime at atlanticinfinity.com.
The Combine, free agency, the draft.
We're professionals. We have a job to do, a season to plan.
Follow the road to the regular season with AA Automotive on Richard Street. Family run since 1954 and 1010XL.
With Lee and Kate's Glass, you're gonna see a big difference.
Hey, it's Frank Frangie. Look, when it comes to glass needs around the home, there's one name I trust, Lee and Kate's. It's local, family-owned, and they've been part of our community since 1926. They've taken great care of me over the years, and I know they'll do the same for you. Visit leeandkatesglass.com.
With Lee and Kate's Glass, you're gonna see a big difference.
Hey, Hicken here for my friends at Zero Res. They want to help you clean your home or business. Big summer savings with 3 rooms clean starting at $129 and 20% off your air duct cleaning. Call them 904-287-5727 and ask for the 1010XL special.
Packer here, and it's been a crazy couple of weeks. Went on a cruise, went out to Las Vegas. There's been a lot going on, and the good folks of Awaken 180 understand that life goes on, man. It's all about losing weight. It's all about getting healthier, but the coaching I get with Awaken 180, my coach Kate, we make game plans for these trips. We talk about things to do, things to try to avoid. But she also understands that it's vacation, right? It's about life. It's about having a fun time. So right when we get back from these trips, I get right back on the program. Been doing it for over a year now, down over 100 pounds in the maintenance program. Awaken 180 is absolutely life-changing, but they understand life, which makes them a lot different from a lot of other weight loss programs. If it's time for you to drop some weight like it was for me, go to awaken180weightloss.com. That's awaken180weightloss.com, or call 844-346-1800 and get involved with Awaken 180 Weight Loss.
This is Mark Nato. My son Justin injured his hand playing baseball for JU. Southeast orthopedic specialist performed surgery just a few days later, and within 5 weeks, he was cleared to play in the ASUN baseball tournament. Our family has trusted Southeast orthopedic specialists for years. For any orthopedic injury, let Southeast orthopedic specialists take care of you too.
Relieve pain and get back to life. Southeast orthopedic specialists.
Florida heat hitting like a heavyweight? Time to call in the champ. KO Electric and HVAC. We knock out the heat and power up your comfort. Fast, reliable, and undefeated in home service. KOElectricJacks.com. KOElectricJacks.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Now the cool down with Donovan Air, Electric and Plumbing, keeping Jack's cool since '87.
Well, we got a little bit of news today, Lauren, earlier. If you missed it, Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show did announce that he thinks this will be his final year. He said, "I'm pretty sure this is it. That's why we just did a one-year deal. Steelers didn't need to put any extra years on that or anything. This was really about finishing, ... was his quote on that. So very interesting to see how all of that plays out in general. We've talked about what that looks like with Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin and what the Steelers can do. Can they make a run? If they make a run, does Aaron Rodgers really want to leave, or does he want to continue something? But also, what does this mean for the Steelers? And this was my whole thing when they announced they were signing him, because it seemed a little weird, and especially if it seems like it's a one-year plan, because you need a quarterback for the future. And if Aaron Rodgers wins you 8-9 games, once again, you're in this world where you're not in reach of those top-tier quarterbacks that are coming out of this draft. And this is a better quarterback draft, they're saying, coming up. We will see. They also said that last year when it was Quinn Ewers and Shador and all of that, and we see how that ended up panning out.
So you don't like Will Howard?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Will Howard, personally. But yeah, I just feel like they put themselves in a bad spot signing Aaron Rodgers because they weren't thinking about the future, and especially if this conversation looked like this, where he's like, it's a one-year deal because of these reasons.
I think it's crazy that the Steelers are in this predicament. And what I mean by that is typically the teams that are at the top of the NFL year in and year out. And yes,
the functional ones.
Yeah, the Steelers haven't won a Super Bowl since Ben Roethlisberger, granted. But typically these types of teams, whether it's the Packers or, sorry, Taylor, but yeah, the functional organizations, teams like certainly the Chiefs as of late, but the Cowboys probably for the longest time too, the functional, outside of Jerry Jones and his silliness, but the functional teams don't usually put themselves in a situation to where they need a life raft from a over 40-year-old quarterback that's only going to play for 1 year and not have a plan for the future. That's why I jokingly asked about Will Howard. I know you don't like Will Howard because Will Howard was the quarterback of Ohio State that just beat Notre Dame in the national championship, but also you drafted him in the 6th round, so I don't know that shows
that's your backup plan, really.
Yeah, that's the future of your organization.
Yeah.
But the fact that you were going to have a quarterback competition between a Mason Rudolph and a Will Howard to this point is just a little surprising to me, when you could have gotten, I feel like, whether it was a Sam Darnold or they could have kept, it feels like, a Justin Fields.
There was definitely some other options there that people
Geno
may have.
Smith, all of those guys, I think, are better long-term answers.
Or just roll with Will Howard or whatever, because I think at this point, you, at least in that sense, it would have looked like tanking probably, but you could have played it as we did like this guy and we want to give him a chance. And then if it doesn't work, which my assumption would be you would win less games with Will Howard. So then you are in the position to be able to draft a quarterback. And unfortunately in the NFL, sometimes that has to happen. The Jaguars, when it came to that season, were not saying the players, fans and media were actively rooting towards the end for the Jags to lose and the Jets to win so that you could get Trevor Lawrence and not Zach Wilson. And that happens. The majority of organizations, some of them luck into one after the other. Obviously, the Packers being one of those. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are honestly kind of in that world where they have had this stretch of guys where they've still been able to win 10, 11, 12 games. And so I do think that even the Niners, because you're throwing in Jimmy Garoppolo and then you have the little bit of mishap with Trey Lance, but then right away get Brock Purdy. And so I do think there's some of these organizations that have just been able to figure it out and keep going. But for the most part, they don't. And for the most part, the teams that have felt like they've really needed a quarterback have had the years where you've had to kind of tank. And you can't say that word, but Miami really,
Andrew Luck.
really did. Yeah. Then unfortunately, that's what it looks like, because you're not getting a top 5 quarterback if you're not a bad football team, unless you give up everything in the entire world and try to get up there. And that's what some people are like, well, they have a lot of draft picks and the draft is in Pittsburgh next year. So everything is shaking out for the Steelers to get one of these top guys. And okay, cool. What if Aaron Rodgers comes in there and they pay him for this 1 year and they really do only win 4 games? And then they get their quarterback. I'm sure Steelers fans will be like, cool, well, we get the quarterback of the future, but then why sign Aaron Rodgers?
And I think they're banking off of Aaron Rodgers having a season like he had the end of last season.
Yeah.
But you just have to wonder, is he going to put in the type of work? Like, if I'm a Steelers fan, I don't want him to be, Aaron Rodgers, that is, to be showing up on the McAfee show anymore. And I know right now is the dead period, and so they're allowed to take some time away. But I still don't want that. I still want to see you putting in time with these new pass catchers.
Yeah.
Right. And I know he's had some time with DK Metcalf, but overall, I feel like Steelers fans are a little bit on the fence about it. Obviously you're cheering for him, but you're also unsure that the process is going to work.
Yeah, and you never really want your team to lose, even if maybe in the back of your mind at certain points in the season, you're like, we should probably lose this game, because if not, we're not going to get a top 10 draft pick or top 5 draft pick, whatever the case may be. And when you going back to, I saw this today, and I saw this actually last night, and it popped out to me because you were saying, the Steelers haven't won a Super Bowl since when did they actually? It was 2010, 2011, something like that. But when I went back and I saw this graphic pop up yesterday, and it had, or maybe it was like 2009.
I was going to say 2009. Yeah, because 2010 would have been the Packers and 2011 would have been the Saints.
The Giants, because the Giants won. Yeah. That was the last.
Saints would have been somewhere in there.
The Giants were 11. I know that because that was the last time. I always make that reference of any New York team has won. But
Saints were 2010. Okay. So what the Packers were then?
They were 10. I think they were 10, they were the 10.
Okay. They're all in there, yeah.
Season, or maybe the 9 season 2010 Super Bowl or whatever. But yeah, so I think that, anyways, I saw this graphic last night and it popped out to me because since 2000, so in the last 24 years right now, and soon to be 25, only 13 NFL teams have won a Super Bowl. So it's not easy to do. Like, you're talking about not even half of the league has won a Super Bowl in the last 25 years because there's a lot of repeats, because the teams that figure it out have been able to kind of stay atop for a little bit longer, because it is really hard to find that quarterback that can take you deep into the playoffs and win the big games.
Yeah, we say there's parity in the NFL. There's really parity more at like the top and at the bottom. Or there's no parity really at the top. It's more at the bottom.
Yeah, and I do think that you find guys, you find your Tom Brady, you find your Patrick Mahomes, and obviously those are the two most obvious, but then you can sprinkle in the Peyton Mannings and Eli Manning because he has a couple. But it's hard to find those quarterbacks that consistently win in and out. And even when you do have your good quarterbacks, because there's a list of good quarterbacks, we could talk about Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and go deeper into it in the last 10 years of Drew Brees's, and you see them win one. Aaron Rodgers, like, you see them win one, and then they never win another one for their entire career, even if their career is 20 years long, because it's not easy to do. And that's in it. Like, with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are one of the most functional, consistent organizations, at least since like the 80s, and they still only have one with Favre and one with Aaron Rodgers. And so when I saw that graphic yesterday, I was like, we go through this thing where it's like, oh, well, they haven't won one since 2010, 2011. Okay, only 13 teams have in the last 25 years. And so I do think that, not saying that shouldn't always be your goal, because you want to win the Super Bowl. You want to win it all. That's the point. But I do think that building something functional and something consistent at least breathes life into cities. And you can see that in like Detroit, for example.
It's fascinating how we could go through each NFL city and see, how did they get to the successful point? Because I'm sure each has had, times where it was incredibly successful and then dropped off. And some people would point to head coach or quarterback or, the organization as a whole. But for the Jaguars, obviously the most successful time in this organization's history is in the 90s. And that's because they had a bold approach with a Tom Coughlin, who they brought in, who had never coached in the NFL before. And he was able to identify all that talent. And then it's been pretty much a desert wasteland outside of a year here and a year there since then, because they haven't been able to put all of that together. And I don't think that that's an ownership thing, but some people would tell you that certainly owners do play a part of it for sure. But you have to, I feel like, know the history. All right, time now for today's Terminix Pest of the Day, as always brought to you by our friends at Terminix. Visit them online at terminix.com. They take care of all of the pest issues that we have at our house: ants, cockroaches, mosquitoes, you name it, termites. Terminix will do a great job for you, like they do a great job for us. Everbank Stadium, VyStar Ballpark, VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena, all of your favorite event venues around town. A quick one today, the good folks at ESPN Baseball just put out, Kylie McDaniel and Jeff Passan just put out a list of players that might be traded at the trade deadline for Major League Baseball. And they have Pete Fairbanks, the Rays closer, as a chance of trade of 60%. Pete Fairbanks is the Rays' only closer. You cannot put that out into the universe. Do not trade him. I don't care what you say. Yes, maybe eventually he'll get paid around $10 million, but
go get him, Cubs. Go get him.
Absolutely not. The Cubs are not one of the teams listed as far as best
they need
fits,
a starter more than a closer.
And the Rays need Pete Fairbanks, and like we said yesterday, best record in baseball since May 9th. So keep your hands off of him. Let's say hello to Matt Hayes.
Now, the 2-minute drill. Serviced by Cool Cats Heating and Cooling. Locally owned and operated. We're your neighbors. CoolCatsJacks.com.
The coolest cats in town.
Matt Hayes, yes, we were just discussing Aaron Rodgers earlier in the show, says this is his final year.
We'll see.
I said the same thing. I was like, it depends how this year goes, I think, for him.
Yeah, I was a little unnerved, by the way, when I walked in here and I heard you say
that you were the
time
pest.
for the best of the day.
Matt Hayes walks in.
We ran out of time to do it earlier because we were doing so many quarterback division rankings, ranking the divisions in the NFL by quarterbacks, and so that took up a huge chunk of time. But I had to get the pest of the day in there. But you are not, Matt Hayes, the pest of the day.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're most welcome. We chatted with Irish O'Fell about the comments of Thomas Castellanos. I heard you say yesterday that you liked them. I think it did probably upset maybe some FSU fans, though.
Yeah, you know what? You can't look at it that way. You were 2-10 last year. You easily could have been 1-11. So I think you got to look at it as there's got to be something that is shaking up over there. And I think Mike Norvell's done a great job in the offseason of doing that and admitting what he did last year was wrong. He failed. And now he went after guys in the portal that were fits for what he wanted to do, for his system, for his philosophy. So let's see what happens. He's got a good quarterback now. Last year he had DJU, and that was again, and we say this all the time, all of us saw it, but apparently he didn't. And that's kind of how it went.
It was too late by the time he saw it.
Yeah.
He wanted Cam Ward, as you know.
Yeah, and that we were talking to Ira too about just the personalities too. The on field was obvious, and you could see that game by game when it comes to the differences between what DJU was and what it seems like Tommy Castellanos will be. But the personalities too, and Ira went into. He just is that he has that more Jameis Winston personality, which obviously Florida State fans gravitate to, and that adds something. You've got to win games too, but for the right now, if you're trying to rebuild some confidence into a program, that's the type of player you need doing that.
Yeah, DJ was very much I don't even know if there's such a thing as a quiet leader. He was not a loud guy on the sidelines. He was not a rah-rah guy. And I'm a firm believer that your quarterback has got to be a guy that's going to get in people's faces. He just does. That's going to get people going. I think that's one of the biggest problems with the guy here at this franchise. I think Trevor needs to be more engaged in the rest of the group and the rest of the players on game day, during practice, during camp. He's got to take that mantle of being the guy, the leader, the guy that can get in other people's faces, and he's got to embrace it. And I don't think he's done that. And it's now year 5. It's not time for him to do it. He is now the leader of this team. No matter what, Brian Thomas is the best player on the team. You've got this great now, unicorn with Travis Hunter. This thing is still all about Trevor Lawrence.
It certainly is. And I think some people who are within the building would say that he's a leader when it comes to the meeting rooms and things like that. But yeah, maybe we don't get to see it as much on the practice field.
Well, I don't see it in the games. I can tell you that. So it could be in the meeting rooms, and it can be in practice that we're not allowed to go to. But I'm not seeing it on game day, and that's when it matters most.
Mm-hmm. What are y'all getting into?
We're going to talk Jags. We're going to talk some college football, kind of the multiplicity of some programs where in the SEC and the Big Ten where they're starting to now dominate outside the sport of football,
like basketball and baseball.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
All right.
We'll be listening. All right. There he goes. And that'll do it for us today. For Mia O'Brien on assignment, for Taylor Dahl, for RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks. These heels are made for talking. We will talk to you tomorrow, but don't go anywhere. XL Prime Talk and all things football is next.